Let's be realistic, the best thing about the Quest 3 is the tribute integration of the Oculus logo over the USB-C port. And this is actually the only thing I was looking for in a new Quest. I'm sold. Well, yeah, of course I already bought it, but I really had to think hard before buying it, if not for this small detail. Oh, and maybe also the following 10 points I'm going to talk about. But to my surprise, not everything is PG right now, and I'm also going to talk about a few negatives in this review comparing it with the Quest 2. Starting, of course, right after the intro. Let's actually begin with the most obvious thing. Looks like the Quest 3 has taken some fitness courses over the last 2 years. It looks way more toned than its brother. And this comes down to having slimmed down lenses taken from its so-called successful cousin, the Quest Pro. The outer shell of the Quest 3 has been remodeled extensively, and when comparing it, it is way more user-friendly than the Quest 2, especially when it comes down to ergonomics, but more on that when we go into more details later in this review. But let's actually start at the beginning. The Quest 3 comes in two different flavors, the 128GB version for 549 euros and the 512GB version for 699 euros. And before going any further, I just want to drop this comment here. I ordered the Quest 2 on launch day in October of 2020 for 299 euros. Meeta somehow justifies almost doubling the price tag of the Quest 3 base version because I guess they added a color pass-through into the newest version. I hope they know what they are actually doing. Inside the box you'll get what you expect. The headset itself, the new touch controllers, a charging cable, as well as a brick. And I don't actually mean the headset itself. And on top of that you also get Asgard's Wrath 2 as a free game as soon as it is ready to be released. And here's actually the next comment that I have to drop. I'd much rather have no game included and instead the option to either pick something from the store with a $50 coupon code that I'm actually interested in, or, and that would be even better and more logical in my opinion, get the option to have an e-light strap included in the box instead of a game. Because, let's be honest again, coming from a Quest 2, how can Meeta actually think it is a great idea to make another one of those borderline useless, headache-inducing cloth strap thingies and include this as a standard with every Quest? I know, there's money and an extra 70 euros for the e-light strap. But I already could not stand to use this on the Quest 2, since it gave me a headache after only 5 minutes on the backside due to its tendency of moving upwards while playing. But now the next iteration of it is in my opinion even worse. First of all, the mechanism to make it fit consists of two separate straps at the back which aren't easy to tighten in any case, especially not behind your back. And second, to get this to sit half decent on my head, it goes way over my ears. What the fuck is this? And then when using it, I get a headache due to the pressure it induces on the front of my head. Again, in under 5 minutes. And I'm surely not the only one. Far from it actually. Most other reviewers I watched had the same problem. A method I found to reduce the pressure is actually adjusting the front interface to the second most outer settings inside the headset. This relieves you a bit from the pressure, but it also introduces more wobble and a worse FOV into it. So it's a trade-off situation until you either get another strap, because money either from Meeta itself or from another third party like Bobo VR, which I actually have the M2 for the Quest 2. It's a great one. After venting my frustration, let's start with the controllers. These are a great update when comparing them with my Quest 2 controllers. It's the best pair of controllers they have ever made. I said it. Coming down to the revamped haptics inside, the lightness and the ditching of the tracking ring around the housing. Also, the feel of the plastic has changed slightly and I like it more than what I got in earlier versions. Also, the rumble features have been slightly, let's say, tuned to make them even more sensitive than before, letting you get to the experience even finer with details when playing your games. And battery life seems to be on par or even slightly better than the Touch 2 controllers. I've used them regularly for a week now and they show actually no signs of going empty anytime soon. Now let's actually get to the headset itself. The first striking new addition are the newly added triple sensor bars at the front, which correlate to the naming of the Quest 3, I guess. Two of them are for housing the regular tracking sensors, and the one in the middle is a depth sensor that also doubles as the new color pass-through mixed reality main feature. More on that a bit later. Design-wise, the Quest 3 is distinctively smaller in build size than its predecessor. According to Meeta, this is 40% slimmer, and when looking at both of them from, well, a side angle, I can definitely agree to that statement. But weirdly enough, the Quest 3 is a few grams heavier than the Quest 2, which to me is no problem at all, due to it being much better balanced than Quest 2. Connection-wise, the headset features all the same ports. Jacks and buttons that the Quest 2 also had, which are volume dial and IPD adjustment switch, a tribute Oculus USB-C port, a power button, which is on the other side compared to Quest 2, which took a bit of actually time to getting used to. And there are also some new additions, such as the magnetic connection for the battery station, which also costs 149 euros on top, as well as the eye relief adjustment dial I talked briefly at the beginning, which actually lets you move the foam inserts in 4 steps to make the headset more comfortable to wear. Now let's actually get to the inside values, which are this time shielded by 2 new sets of Pancake lenses. These new sets make an enormous difference when it comes to clarity, field of view and sharpness. There's almost zero distortion on them. To my eyes, no visual artifacts such as moire or God rays, and no lens flares at all. And above all, the thing I really didn't like going from the CV1 to the Quest 3 by now, there's no so-called screen door effect, and I still actually had some occasional moments when using the Quest 2, but with this new combination of 2 LCD panels and the Pancake lenses, I could not spot it anymore. Talking about the panels, these two are now, from the get-go, able to produce stunning images with up to 120 Hz and also increase the resolution roughly to 30% more. This bumps up from 1832 by 1920 per eye to 2046 by 2206 pixels per eye. Yeah, I know this doesn't sound like much actually, but this is quite an improvement and can give you roughly 10% more in terms of FOV when comparing it with the Quest 2. All of this is mostly down to the new panels, but to power this, well, bump in resolution, Meeta is the first company to include the new Snapdragon XR2 Gen2 as well as only 8GB of RAM, a bit less than the Pro has. Right now this isn't felt in games yet, since most of the developers haven't updated their games yet, nor have there been any new games taking advantage of the new chipset yet, but you can still feel it when starting up the Quest 3. It launches so much quicker, and the UI feels so much more responsive than any of the other older models. Everything is snappy, it is fluent and it is flawless. Speaking of the UI, there have been some major improvements in how you can actually interact with it as well, which also comes down to the combination of the XR and the new processor. Gone are the days when everything felt janky and interactions were clunky between your virtual fingers or controllers and the button you tried to push. Now everything feels more stable, and grabbing the UI and placing it somewhere in your play space becomes so much more useful. Also, taking a video with you like you're using an iPad, watching this while doing something else in XR opens up quite a lot of new possibilities, just like this. Speaking of all the XR mumbo jumbo, Passthrough has been updated massively when comparing it with the grey and noisy pixel mesh that the Quest 2 produced 3 years earlier. And it now actually becomes fun trying out the few available games for XR that Meeta has released so far. Which isn't much actually. And now when it comes to the UI, tracking quality is something that is also very important, especially while playing fast and active games. And I can report that I had no problems with tracking at all, even though the sensor placement has changed. Especially when testing this in Beat Saber, there were no lags, no sudden jumps or missed slashes. At least while I was playing on expert most of the time. And I have to say, even in not so great lighting conditions, the tracking was still very, very good. I had no problems in playing in the evening with just a dimly lit place, coming from actual click and grows around our place that effectively replaced almost all of our lights in the living room. Now I actually hate to end reviews on negatives, but there are quite some things that have to be addressed when it comes to usability and fixing problems with the Quest 3 and especially XR. Let's begin by saying it nicely. For the amount of advertisement Meeta has created for the Quest 3 based around mixed reality content, there's absolutely nothing yet that would actually entice me to buy a Quest 3 for XR alone. Yes, okay, there is something like the First Encounter app, which drops a UFO into your room and you need to shoot these tiny squishy guys. They are actually cute. And there's also a piano learning app, which looks fun and actually like a good idea. But to work properly, you also need a piano, which isn't available in every household. At least that's a step in the right direction. But since launch, there is no killer app, no fantastic great idea that uses XR yet. Everything still feels like tech demo at best. Hopefully this will change in the next 3 to 6 months, especially with Christmas and a lot of parents getting the new Quest for their teenage kids. The only app that I find remotely interesting, which has a great idea, seems to be Demio, a tabletop role-playing game simulator that can be placed inside your living room as on a table or something, but without regular players. With a Quest 3 to test the XR content portion of it, this is something that is not for me to test out in the near future. What I would also like to see in the future update would be a separation between regular VR games in the store and an extra XR content tab to make it easier to find new games for both sides of the spectrum and especially for XR. But I'm sure Meeta will have this on their roadmap, since the last few years, update-wise, they have been very steady in fixing and making the Quest 2 a much better headset than in the beginning, software-wise. So overall, my conclusion after using the Quest 3 for 1 week now roughly is pretty simple. To my taste, Meeta is overpriced and oversold the Quest 3, especially when it comes to XR content and usability. These could and of course should change with time, but right now it's not that great. For 550 euros I expected a crushing start from the get-go. At least you get a step in the right direction with much better controllers, better Pancake lenses that practically eliminated everything that wasn't great on the Quest 2 and actually put some more resolution on top. The new chipset is also great and will give you plenty enough power for the next 2 to 3 years until it's time for the next round of Quest headset, probably Quest 4 at this point in time. The only thing that I find hindering Meeta right now is the massive price jump, not only in terms of headset, but also in terms of accessories, which are massively overpriced, and the lack of good software that takes the Quest 3 from being a good refreshment to the next big thing in terms of VR or XR. Right now, to me, this is still only the let's play some Beat Saber at the evening machine. Hopefully this changes in the future, especially when Apple releases its Vision Pro headset. And of course we all know when Apple brings something to the market actually reacts in one way or the other. As always, my name is Leech and I'm off writing the next scripts. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to subscribe to this channel. There are plenty more of this type of content and of course many other things available for you to watch. Have a great day, see you around and goodbye.